Our gospel lesson today is from the book of Luke. We are in chapter 18, verses 9 through 14. And in my Bible, it's entitled The Parable of the Pharisee and the Tax Collector. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everybody else, Jesus told this parable. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. And the Pharisee stood up and prayed about himself. God, I thank you that I am not like other men, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give 1/10 of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you, this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. This is the reading of the word of our Lord. You may be seated. Our preaching passage today is from 1 Peter. We are in chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. Therefore, prepare your minds for action. Discipline yourselves. Set all your hope on the grace that Jesus Christ will bring you when he is revealed. Like obedient children, do not be conformed to the desires that you formerly had in ignorance. Instead, as he who called you is holy, be holy yourselves in all your conduct. For it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. I read this not too long ago in Holy Days and Holidays by Edward Deems. He writes this: the first idea I had of heaven was a great city with spires and a great many angels, but not one person I knew. And then one of my little brothers died. And then I thought of heaven as a great city with walls and spires and a little fellow that I knew. And then a second brother died. And then a third brother. And a fourth. And then one of my friends died, and I began to know a little more about heaven, but never until I let one of my own children go up into the skies had I any idea as to what heaven was like. And then the second child, and the third, and the fourth child was taken away from me. And there came a time when I lived more with them and with God than here on the earth. And so the best view of heaven comes to you and me when we have loved ones in that city of light. The longer we live, the more loved ones that we have in heaven, isn't it? Yeah. I talked with Arlene about that this summer. Friends, family, when you live as long as she has, you have suffered a lot of loss. Yeah. Now we call them the saints, and those saints, many times we want to be like them. We want to live as they lived. But God calls us to an even higher standard than that. He calls us to be holy. To be holy. You shall be holy, for I am holy. Now, how do we become holy? Leviticus 27 and 8 kind of gives us a clue. It says, "Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and follow them. I am the Lord who makes you holy." So, we can't make ourselves holy, can we? God makes us holy, and as holy people, we are saints. Now, when you think of saints, what do you think of? Maybe a football team in New Orleans? Is that... a lot of us think of the Catholic saints, the canonized saints, like St. Francis or St. Christopher, or not me. Saint Sister Teresa, she was canonized as a saint. But since we're Protestant, the only saint we probably know is Saint Nick. He was a saint. It's true. Now, the two New Testament letters addressed to the saints. Isn't it interesting? The New Testament letters were addressed to the saints, to these people who were really members of congregations, and these members of the congregations were all over. So the letter to Philippi or the letter to the Romans, all these different letters were addressed specifically to the saints. Kind of interesting. And really, it just means they were followers of Christ. Yeah, just followers of Christ. It's easy to be confused about all this, because we often think that saints are especially close to God, that somehow they have the inside track to heaven. They do miracles in their spare time, feed birds from their hands. You've all seen the statue, David. And saints, of course, die a martyr's death most of the time, so we probably don't want to be associated with one. But the biblical definition of saint is one who is called to be holy as God is holy. Yeah, one who is called to be holy. Now, we have All Saints' Day coming up here, and we're remembering today. This Sunday is a day for remembering. I'm a kind of a sentimental person. I like to keep lots of things around me that remind me of people, events. I just associate all these memories with these various things that Rhonda's always trying to throw out. Why do you keep this junk around here? When I was a young dad, for many years, we had no TV in my house. I didn't have time for TV. I didn't watch TV. We just didn't have a TV in the house. But I've always been a space person. I get a kick out of space and all the rocket launches and various things, and I still watch them every time I can. And so the space shuttle was about to launch for the very first time. And I thought, I got to see that. I got to see that. So I went to the store and I bought a 9-inch color TV. Yeah. Hey, it was color. 9-inch color TV, and I set it on a shelf real close to the corner of the couch there where I could get my nose right into it and see it. And I set my little 2 or 3-year-old daughter on my lap, and I said, "You got to watch this, Kessie. This is history." And we watched the space shuttle launch. And it was amazing. And then I had this memory, and the memory was associated with the TV. See? So I couldn't get rid of the TV. I had the TV for 10, 15 years, and finally the TV went up in smoke, and I still couldn't get rid of it because every time I looked at that TV, I thought about that time with my daughter watching the space shuttle launch. Folks, we don't need the TV to remember. I finally threw it away. Our memories are there with or without the TV. And really, it's that time with my daughter that was important to me, not the TV. It's the people that we remember, the times that we spent with them, and the love that we shared. Now, someday, it's going to be us that is being memorialized, isn't it? And for some of us, we're getting kind of close to that due date. It's going to be coming up here before too long. And when they remember us on that All Saints Sunday, well, we're the saints that God has called to be holy. Now, you probably don't feel like much of a saint. You may have yelled at your spouse recently, or coveted the neighbor's car, or forgot to pray, or engaged in some illicit gossip, huh? We all fall short of the call to be holy. And in spite of that, God didn't say the saints are the people that are holy, did he? Isn't that interesting? He said the saints are the people that are what? Called to be holy. So, that means even I'm one of God's saints. Really? Yeah, really. Now you say it with me, will you? I am one of God's saints. Got to do it again. A little louder with conviction. I am one of God's saints. Yeah. And to the saints, God says, you be holy as I am holy. And so we build the kingdom here on earth. We do the missions that we're called to do. We talk about our faith when we're called to do that. We encourage and love each other. And we remember all of those who came before us, who also did all of those things. God bless.